Hello. Today I'd like to talk about and explore conflict navigation. You know, several things affect and inform how we respond to conflict. Things like temperament, conditioning, personality styles, our roles and identity, context, relationship, even our culture. The question becomes, why is it that we tend to respond to conflict over and over and over again in a habitual way? This is primarily because we have never questioned the efficacy of our conflict style. We've never considered whether our ego is in charge, whether it needs all the protection that we give it by responding habitually and in default mode whenever conflict arises. So the purpose of this talk is to help us begin to explore an awareness of how each of us responds to conflict in tense and in often positioned situations. In front of you, you'll see a simple yet effective model developed by Thomas and Kilman in the 1970s. It uses two basic criteria to define different styles for navigating conflict. On the x-axis, we have a cooperativeness scale ranging from low to high. Cooperativeness is simply the extent to which an individual attempts to satisfy another person's concerns. The real question is, how much attention do we give to relationship? On the y-axis, you'll see an assertiveness scale, again ranging from low to high. Assertiveness is the extent to which an individual attempts to satisfy his or her own concerns. It's an internal focus, and the question here, or the focus, is how hard do I push for my own agenda? These two basic dimensions of behavior can be used to define and outline 5 specific methods of dealing with conflict. They are competition, collaboration, compromise, avoidance, and accommodation. We will examine each in turn. Collaboration is characterized by high assertiveness and high cooperation, and its goal is to find a true win-win. The relationship between the players is important, and the goal is to look for an integrated, mutually beneficial solution where all parties' concerns are too important to be compromised. It's characterized by merging insight of various people with diverse backgrounds and multiple perspectives about the same problem. It's very useful when you're trying to engage buy-in, cultivate commitment, get all the parties on board to expand enrollment, and when there's an authentic desire to learn from multiple perspectives. There are some times when collaboration is not the best strategy. At times we over-discuss trivial issues, we spend too much time creating unnecessary buy-in, or we bring non-essential parties into the situation. Collaboration can take a lot of time, and it can create ineffective decisions by people with limited knowledge of the situation. The goal of the second strategy, compromise, is to find a win-win where everybody gives up a little. This is a neutral strategy characterized by splitting the difference or exchanging concessions to find middle ground. This is effective when looking for a temporary solution or when you need to arrive at an expedient solution under time pressures. There are some drawbacks. It's important you don't give up your values in order to find peace and harmony. And the solutions here are often short-lived. No one really walks away completely satisfied, and it's easy to enter back into the conflict. This is because you may not feel like everyone's needs were completely met. Compromise can foster a cynical climate or a perception by both parties that there's a sense of a sellout. And sometimes larger issues, principles, and long-term values can be lost when focusing on the trivia or the practicality of implementing a solution. Avoidance simply means our impulse to withdraw, to walk away or disappear in the face of conflict. It is characterized by low assertiveness and low cooperation, and in 4 words, I lose, you lose. There's a wisdom in some of the old adages about letting sleeping dogs lie, about not stirring the pot. Sometimes the issue at hand doesn't really concern us, and we're better off just steering clear of it. At other times, the conflicts dissipate on their own. Often, walking away from a situation is skillful and even shrewd, but a habitual strategy of avoidance can come at great cost. It can make us feel lonely or invisible. We may fail to make a contribution for fear of pushback, and then wonder why we aren't valued and appreciated. It can create lack of self-esteem and self-doubt, and creative input can be lost. Sometimes we expend valuable energy on suppressing awareness of the conflict when we could have used that same energy to solve the problem. Habitual conflict avoidance takes its toll on our confidence, our effectiveness, and our relationships. Those of us who embrace the accommodating style tend to be highly cooperative and attentive, but we don't stand up for our own agenda. It is I lose, you win. You know, being agreeable is an excellent trait, especially in a work setting. Responding promptly and positively to superiors' requests, helping implement initiatives, taking direction, and listening to the opinions of others are effective and necessary skills. But when we get stuck in this pattern, we run some of the same risks as the person with the avoidance style. We lose our own sense of self-worth. We believe that our value comes from taking care of other people. We relinquish our own passions and our own voice in support of someone else. And then we start to feel resentful when our contribution fails to be acknowledged. Unlike the avoider, however, our compulsion to hold on keeps us in dysfunctional relationships for far too long. Differences in people and their agenda leave us shaky, wobbly, and uncertain about who to support. When an opportunity to lead arises, we may fail to step up to the responsibility because we are accustomed to supporting. Neglecting our own concerns to satisfy others can get us into trouble. For the competitor, conflicts are simply opportunities to prevail. Assertiveness is catalyzing, life-giving, energizing. Competition is an opportunity to express ourselves fully, to push beyond boundaries and limits, to experience the highs of working with people in a highly purposeful environment with strong goals and strategies. A great deal gets done. We are highly effective. When worked with consciously, the energy of competition can bring about the best of us. Habitual competition, however, can be highly destructive. It is characterized as I win, you lose, and this style wears everyone down over time. We put others in a state of unease. The people that we interact with are on the lookout for trouble. They're walking on eggshells, talking in low tones behind our backs. We're cut off from true communication because our colleagues and loved ones won't risk the arguments. They live in fear. We may end up believing that we have more support from others than we actually do. Aggression creates a sense of separateness, and we suffer from our own angry outbursts and lack of kindness. We can't relax and enjoy ourselves when the competition is finished. And we often find ourselves alone, hardened, and isolated. As we are discovering, each of the 5 styles has its particular strengths and particular weaknesses. The idea is to expand flexibility and possibility so that you don't get stuck in the negative of one particular style. In reality, you're capable of using all 5 styles. You likely do not embrace one single rigid style of dealing with conflict. However, it may be possible that you use some styles more readily than others, and therefore over-rely on those modes. The conflict behaviors that you use are the result of both your personal disposition and the requirements of the situations you find yourself in. Furthermore, your social skills may lead you to rely on some of the modes more than others. One of the primary goals of working with the TKI model is to learn to become more fluid with accessing and working within and among each style. As the demands and needs of the situation shift, you too will have more leadership options at your disposal. This concludes the animated presentation. Please return to the module now.